Inez, and today is Tell It Like It Is Thursday. Yes, it is, and we are going to tell it like it is. And today's topic is how to fire your clients. Oh my God. This is a topic I know that makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable because in business, we're used to trying to get clients, not trying to fire them. However, there are some cases where you may need to fire your clients. And I bring this up because I've actually dealt with a lot of my private clients who actually needed to fire people and really coming up with the right way to do that. So, I guess before we even go into the firing stuff, you have to figure out whether you need to fire your clients. So usually people know this, but in case you don't, these are some clear indicators that will tell you if you need to fire one of your clients. Number one is if your client is stressing you out. So if you have two different scales, and on this scale is the pleasure scale, and on this scale is the stress scale, if your client is more on the stress scale and that's really outweighing the pleasure scale, then that's really a clear indicator that you may need to fire this client. Yes, we know that there are bad days in business sometimes. However, if you're consistently stressed out over the same client and you're doing a great job, I'm not talking about people who are not doing a great job here. If you're doing a great job, but you're consistently stressed out by a client, that's an indicator that you may need to fire that client. A second indicator that you may need to fire a client is if you are getting sick. Yes, I have seen my own personal clients getting sick over their clients. And if you are physically getting ill or you feel like you want to hurl every time you think about that person, then that's a clear sign that this client is not in alignment with who you are. Because if you think about it, when you are in business, your goal is to show up and be the best at what you do, right? That's the goal, to show up and be the best at what you do. And it makes me think of a quote by Gandhi that says, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." And that is so true. I mean, as business owners, the reason that you should be in business is because you love being in the service of others. However, if someone is causing you to hate being in the service of others, then you definitely don't want to deal with that person, right? Because your business is about serving others. And if you feel like I do not want to serve this person makes me actually want to go hurt somebody, then it's really not someone that you should be dealing with. So those are some indicators that I've seen that my clients have gotten about who they need to fire. One other indicator is if you really don't like what you are doing for that client. It's about realizing what your strengths are, what you actually like doing in your business. I know that's kind of like a foreign concept for a lot of people, actually liking what you do in your business, but really, think about it. If you are in business for yourself, why should you be focused on tasks and responsibilities that you hate doing? So if it's not bringing you pleasure and you hate working with that client, or they're stressing you out, they're making you sick, whatever it is, then it's a clear indicator that you need to get rid of that client. So let's talk about the ways that you can get rid of your clients in style, right? Because there's always a classy way of doing things and a not so classy way of doing things. And if you want to run a business where you are at the forefront and you can say, yes, my business is one of integrity, then you always want to find a classy way to do things, even if it means firing a client. So step number one in firing a client is have a conversation. So literally the first key is communication. You have to communicate with your client that you're having trouble with. So if let's say that person is one of those people calling you at all hours of the night, your communication, whether it's via email or picking up the phone, which I suggest pick up the phone, is to really just let the client know these are my business hours, right? That's a simple way of letting the client know. And don't let them know that when it's not your business hours. Let them know what your business hours are when you're writing that email back. So don't respond if they're sending you an email on like a Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock. Don't respond at 5 o'clock. Respond on Monday morning, right? And just say, if it's over and over and over that they're sending these emails on Saturday and they're expecting a response, because sometimes, people are catching up on things over the weekend and they're not necessarily expecting you to respond. So I'm only talking about with those clients who expect a response during times where you're clearly off the clock, right? So you can say something along the lines, hey, I'm happy to help you. Feel free to write me during these times, whichever your office hours, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever it is, I'll be available for you. Or you can talk to my assistant or someone else on your team who supports you if you have other people who support you on your team. So that's a clear way to open the channels of communication. So whatever the issue is, see if there's a way you can possibly resolve it and find a middle ground. Because sometimes, it could be clearly situations where there's just a communication barrier and people are not really communicating properly. So you want to make sure that those communication channels are clear. Step number 2 is play nice and find a resolution. So before you go and you fire your client, in order to come up at your best self, is to find a resolution or find someone else that may love working with that client. Because just because the client is not the right client for you doesn't mean it's not the right client for someone else. Maybe it's just that your personalities don't mesh, right? So maybe you can find someone that they can mesh with, or someone you don't want to unload your bad clients onto other people. However, I really do believe that there is someone for everyone, right? Everyone has like their someone that they can work with. Case in point is I used to work when I worked in a huge company. No one could get along with this particular person I worked for. But when I came in, I got along with this person and everyone thought it was a miracle, right? However, it's just that I understood him and I just didn't expect certain things I guess other people expected. So I was a good fit for this person. So just know, even people who are difficult to deal with, there is someone out there who is a right fit for them. So if you can find someone who's the right fit for that person, go ahead, because that will have you come with a solution. Step number 3 in firing your client: be honest. The way you can come about it is to honestly say how you're feeling. Remember, don't make it about the client. Don't make them the bad guy and you the victim. It's not about that at all. It's about finding a solution that is equally great for you and that client, right? So when you're being honest, you just want to make sure it's coming from the space of you. So don't say, talk about yourself. Don't talk about the client. Just tell them, right now, maybe your plate is full and I really cannot serve you in the way that I would love to serve you. However, I have this great solution for you and I'd love to introduce you to this person. And, be sure that you've actually spoken to that person beforehand or found that solution beforehand. You don't want to be scrambling. And if you can't find a solution and you can't find someone, then you may want to point them in the right direction, or at least give the person enough time, right? So let's say you're on a month-to-month contract with a client or week-to-week. You want to give them adequate notice so that they can find someone else to fill your shoes. That doesn't mean you have to give 3 months notice. Depending on what your contract is, you may. But usually in most cases, you don't have to give a long notice. But be sure to give at least some notice. And the final step in how to fire clients is step number 4. Be like Nike and just do it. Literally, you have to just go out and do it. If you decided that you are going to fire a client, then you need to actually do it, right? You can't continue complaining about it, talking about it over and over again, because honestly, it's taking energy away from you getting the clients that are actually the perfect fit for you. And once again, it can be scary. However, it does require faith. And I did a video about faith, and I'm going to leave a link to that video below this one. And you really want to walk in faith when it comes to this and know that as you let go of the things that no longer serve you, the things that you actually need that will help pull you along, push you along, elevate you to the next level will show up. And I know that there may be situations where you're like, oh my God, this client, I get a lot of money from them. But honestly, if it's draining your energy, if it's making you sick, if you're not feeling good, if you're hating what you're doing, then you really need to put a plan in place and you really need to let that client go so that you can allow the clients that are great for you to come in. So those are the 4 steps, and what I want you to do is to leave me a comment below and let me know if you need to fire a client. Do you relate to this? Maybe you have a couple of clients that you need to fire, or one, or maybe you've done this before yourself. So share your insights, share your what you think about this and what you are planning on doing in the comments section, and I look forward to hearing from you. And if you like this video, please, of course, share it with your friends across your social networks. Thank you for joining me this week, and yes, you have been told if you aren't on the newsletter list and you're not getting the weekly tidbits that I share for free, head over to TherezSquared.com and you will get your free newsletter. And I really am looking forward to talking to you next time. Bye!